reaching epidemic levels, and it's costing us billions of pounds every year. Deliberate crashes, bogus personal injury claims, even phantom pets. The fraudsters are risking more and more to make a quick killing. And every year, it's adding up to £50 to your insurance bill. Insurers are fighting back, armed with covert surveillance systems.
There's a subject out the vehicle.
Sophisticated data analysis techniques. And highly skilled dedicated police units. They're catching the criminals red-handed. All those con men, scammers and cheats on the fiddle, now they're caught in the act and claimed and shamed. Is raiding the home of a suspected insurance cheat.
The officers have found a handgun. Quite possibly everything in this house has been purchased from the proceeds of crime.
An aircraft manufacturing giant finds a fraudster.
I've seen an awful lot of these over the years, but it was still pretty staggering to watch.
And a smashed up sports car is at the centre of a whodunit mystery.
He was saying the rear end was completely smashed up. She said there was minimal damage to the rear end of the car.
Photocopying can be pretty dull. Sheet after sheet after sheet, followed by collating and stapling ad infinitum. Imagine doing it all day. That's what Adam Roberts used to do for a commercial airline manufacturer. His career wasn't always this humdrum. Up until October 2007, he used to make these. Some of the biggest planes in the world.
Adam Roberts was working as an apprentice aircraft electrician. He was working in an aircraft factory, helping to apply parts to aircraft wings. He could have expected to earn anywhere between $30,000 going up to $50,000 a year, depending on where he was working and his experience. The accident was on the 15th of October 2007, and what he said was that he slipped on debris while he was working. The injury was a wrenching injury to the back, a soft tissue injury which was alleged to have caused some sort of spinal problems.
His injuries worsened over time, badly affecting his everyday life.
Before the accident, he'd liked to go horse riding, playing golf, cycling and other such activities. But as a result of this accident and his supposed disability, he could no longer do that. He said they had to use a crutch all the time, and often two crutches.
Due to his injuries, Adam was no longer capable of doing his job as an aircraft electrician.
He tried it, but said he found it too physically demanding. He was saying that he was at a big disadvantage in the labour market because he was disabled, and it made a difference to his ability to work in future. It imperilled his ability to work in future.
Roberts, now stuck in an admin role, decided to make a claim against his employer.
He was claiming for past care afforded by his family, for unspecified aids and equipment, and he was also claiming for future loss of earnings, future care and future equipment, and there was also a claim for future accommodation costs. My assessment of the overall value of the claim, including legal costs, was £670,000.
It was a massive claim. To see it through, Roberts would need to provide medical evidence of his disability.
When he issued his legal proceedings, he supported his proceedings with two medical reports, one from a consultant orthopaedic surgeon and one from a consultant psychiatrist. And both of those doctors concluded that he had suffered injury in this accident and that that injury was responsible for his continuing disability.
He looked to have a solid case. Just one more thing, the insurer's medical examination.
When I got the papers, I went through them in detail, and there were a couple of things about the claim that raised my suspicions. There was no hard clinical pathology that our medical experts could find to justify the complaints. That was part of the issue for us in looking at this case very hard. There was a suggestion when he'd been examined in hospital that a test which is used to detect exaggeration had resulted in some not entirely straightforward responses.
Nothing conclusive had come from the medical reports, and with suspicions raised, the insurer set out to discover the real physical state of Adam Roberts. They hired a private investigator.
He was put under surveillance for a period of 3 days in June 2011. From our point of view, the surveillance on the 17th of June was the crucial surveillance. What it showed Mr. Roberts doing was, after having come home from work on the Friday afternoon, it was a Friday afternoon, he then drove to a house which we now know to have been a house his mother had just bought.
In accordance with his claim, we should expect to see a badly disabled Adam Roberts using crutches and only capable of walking short distances at a time. Here he comes now.
I've seen an awful lot of these over the years, but it was still pretty staggering to watch.
An industrious Roberts emerges from the house and proceeds to dump the contents of a gutted bathroom into a skip.
Firstly, he was shown putting some large pieces of board into the skip, and not just putting them in, but ramming them in, breaking them on occasion, and sometimes bashing them on the side of the skip. Then, I think, as I recall it, he and his mother brought out a bath between them, but he was the one who picked it up and upended it into the skip. He brought out a lavatory system, there was a wash basin, there was a fire surround that he spent quite a lot of time bashing around and trying to get into the skip. There were bags of rubble, and you could see from the way that he was carrying them that they weren't lightweight bags of rubble, they were builder's sacks, and they were heavy, and he was emptying those into the skip. There was dust everywhere. And there were a number of items which he was trying to break up and bashing against the side of the skip. And it culminated, as I recall, with Mr. Roberts actually jumping into the skip and actually tamping stuff down with his feet, jumping up and down on the stuff a little bit, and generally trying to settle stuff down the skip by being in it. And that's the point at which, I just thought, oh dear.
Roberts had tried to get a massive payout from the insurers. They weren't happy. They decided to take him to court.
The reason for doing that was that we and the insurers felt it was necessary to send a message to people that they just can't do this and expect to get away with it. The judges said that they felt that he was somebody who was prepared to lie to achieve his aims.
Adam Roberts was found guilty of contempt of court. He was sentenced to 6 months in jail.
It seems such a shame. He'd qualified as an aircraft electrician, and to lose all that for the sake of exaggerating his symptoms is inexplicable to me, really. I just don't understand why he did it. No, I don't think insurance fraud is ever worth the risk. It is fraud. People have, I think, kidded themselves into thinking they won't be found out. They will get found out, and when they get found out, as Adam Roberts' case shows, the consequences are very, very serious indeed. You can end up ruining your life. And for what?
An injured man makes a £17,000 claim.
He stepped out of the car and put his foot onto a manhole cover, and the manhole cover collapsed.
And a fast car takes a whack.
In most cases, they normally take a hammer to the back of it.
Insurance fraud is on the rise, and if you have insurance of any kind, you're footing the bill. But the fraudsters have an ominous enemy.
IFED is a 35-strong unit that works tirelessly to hunt down and prosecute insurance fraudsters wherever they may be throughout England and Wales.
Through a combination of investigation, industry connections and surprise, they've made over 300 arrests and stopped millions of pounds from going to the criminals. Money which ultimately goes back in our pockets.
If you're thinking of committing insurance fraud, I'd say to you, think again, because there's every chance that IFED could come knocking on your front door.
Police, don't move, stay where you are!
It's 7:35 a.m. In an attempt to stop the activities of a suspected fraud gang, the Insurance Fraud Enforcement Department is simultaneously executing raids at multiple addresses. IFED's Declan Malone and Simon Stiles are heading to the address of the suspected ringleaders.
This morning we're off to an address which is the home address of the main suspect in a fake claims management company where he's setting up fake policies online and making claims on accidents that have never occurred, and it's believed that the perpetrators have managed to have achieved something like £250,000 from their claims so far. The guy should be at his home address with his wife, who's also going to be arrested. It's one of 6 search warrants that are being issued simultaneously.
Alex, hi. Yeah, we're just plotting up now. We'll be good to go in about 5.
Because it's the house of the suspected ringleaders, as well as making arrests, they expect to find potential evidence of the gang's activities. It could be a big search. Declan and Simon are joined by representatives from the Ministry of Justice, local police, and the head of IFED, DCI David Wood.
Quiet, please. Quiet, please.
It's only 7:40 a.m, but the neighbours are out and about and agitated by the presence of the raid team. DCI David Wood steps in to stop the situation escalating.
Come in! Hello? Come in!
I'd like to come down, please, and talk to the police. Thank you.
Hiya, I'm Declan Malone from the police. Can I speak to Mum or Dad? It's all right. Yeah, we need to come and speak to them. It's okay. Can I come in, please? We just need to come in and just get people out of the street so they don't get into trouble. Hello, police.
Hello, police.
IFED finds both suspects in the house. One of them is a familiar face.
The individual arrested today, we believe, he is one of the main individuals involved in this particular insurance scam. He has been convicted before of a like-minded crime.
So now I'm arresting you on suspicion of conspiracy to defraud and money laundering.
Both suspects are taken to a local police station for questioning. That's half the job done at this location.
We've taken away the main suspect and his wife. He's been arrested for conspiracy to defraud and for money laundering. She's just been arrested for conspiracy to defraud.
IFED can now begin a systematic search for potential evidence. It's a 3-story townhouse. It could be a big job.
It's important that we do everything, we don't leave any stone unturned. If we're doing a search, we want to do it properly. That's why we called in the experts who are fully trained and qualified in the current search techniques, even better than us.
The townhouse is new and fairly high spec. Its quality raises the suspicions of IFED's financial investigator, Simon Stiles.
From the inquiries that I've made, I can see no trace of the family, any member of the family actually working. I've just to check on whether they're actually in receipt of any benefits. But this house, looking around it, there's a lot of nice stuff, whether it's clothes or material goods, and it's quite possible that everything in this house has been purchased from the proceeds of crime.
Head of IFED, DCI David Wood, has received news from the other location of today's raid.
Just received some breaking news from one of the addresses. The officers have found a handgun. They're not sure exactly what it is and what it isn't, so they've called out the local police firearms team to come and make it safe and identify exactly what the weapon is.
IFED makes big discoveries in a small room.
In the wrong hands, deadly. It's upsetting and annoying to see, especially with that's so close to where all the children are running next to their bedroom.
This is a street in Shrewsbury. It looks fairly innocuous. Most people would feel safe walking down it. But watch your step. In 2012, local man Peter Finney was badly injured here. The culprit, a manhole cover.
Peter Finney was a passenger in a car, and he stepped out of the car outside the Lion Hotel in Shrewsbury and put his foot onto a manhole cover, and the manhole cover collapsed and he injured his leg.
The manhole was on private land. Its upkeep was the responsibility of a hotel. The hotel's insurer would have to bear the brunt of Peter Finney's claim. They had a look at the details.
He had soft tissue injuries to his leg. It's something which is not visible, so it is, as it says, soft tissue whiplash is the most obvious example that we get, but it's anything which is not easy to detect or easy to see.
His injuries were severe enough to force him off work. Loss of earnings and mounting medical bills led Finney to seek compensation totalling £17,000. For a claim of this size, the insurer needed to know more about the accident.
We asked him to give us some more information, and eventually he provided a photograph of the manhole cover.
This is what a well-maintained manhole cover looks like. The one Peter Finney fell down looked like this. It seemed as though the hotel had been negligent with the upkeep of the manhole. With cast iron evidence like this, Finney could look forward to getting his payout. But not yet. Peter Finney's claim had a few irregularities. Chasing further information, the insurer decided to visit the scene of the incident, the hotel in Shrewsbury. Since Peter Finney's alleged accident, the hotel had replaced the manhole cover with a new one.
Although the manhole cover at the hotel was intact, they actually thought they'd replace it just to be on the safe side.
But luckily for the insurer, the manager had kept the old one. And when they saw it, it turned Peter Finney's claim into a criminal investigation.
The manhole cover that is in the photograph is a completely different construction. It's quite obvious to anybody that you wouldn't need forensic examination to see these were different manhole covers. And we referred him straight to the Insurance Fraud Enforcement Department.
Finney was in big trouble. Since its inception, IFED's team of over 30 specialist detectives have made over 300 arrests. Peter Finney was in their sights.
Detectives travelled to Shrewsbury and arrested Mr. Finney and interviewed him at the local police station. Mr. Finney stuck to his original story and maintained that the injury had been suffered due to the stepping on the defective, as he called it, manhole cover.
Faced with a stubborn suspect, IFED decided to take the case to court, causing Peter Finney to crack.
On the 31st of January 2013, Mr. Finney attended Shrewsbury Magistrates Court and entered a plea of guilty to the charge of fraud by false representation.
Peter Finney was sentenced to 18 weeks imprisonment, suspended for 12 months, and ordered to do community service.
It would have impacted on the hotel because there they are running their business when somebody chooses them to be the victim of a fictitious claim, and ultimately will impact on the premium that they'd have to pay had this person been successful in getting away with their scam.
Jeremy Clarkson doesn't care for them, but many do. Porsche cars have always been associated with speed and style, and most people would agree they're not cheap. So when one takes a shunt, it generally results in a big insurance claim. The black car in this tunnel is a Porsche. Right behind the Porsche is a van belonging to Doncaster County Council. The driver of the Porsche, Mark Smith, is pretty annoyed right now, as the white council van has just smashed into the back of it. Luckily, the road layout meant the crash wasn't at high speed, so no one was seriously injured.
At the time of the accident, according to our expert report, the van wasn't going more than 30 miles an hour, nor was Mark Smith.
Even at that speed, fixing a Porsche doesn't come cheap. The repair costs came to £27,000. Mark Smith also filed a claim for whiplash and for the cost of a hire car until his was fixed. All in, the insurers of the council van were potentially facing a £100,000 claim.
He would have got a high-end vehicle because of the Porsche he was driving, so he would have got like for like. So you're looking at a lot of money each day. It soon starts adding up.
Before they could pay out on the personal injury claim and hire charges, the insurers needed to make sure all of the claims paperwork was in order. That's when they spotted a problem.
They became suspicious when they obtained a statement from the van driver. When her statement came in, there was ambiguities between what she was saying and what Mark Smith was alleging. He was saying the rear end was completely smashed up. She said there was minimal damage to the rear end of the car.
It was a big difference in opinion. Did the Porsche suffer massive rear-end damage, or just a small dent? The insurance company sent out a specialist examiner to look at the vehicle and find out whose statement was more accurate.
When the examination took place, photographs were taken. Now, the rear end of this vehicle is completely smashed up. Pictures can prove that.
The Porsche looked to have been severely damaged, which backed up owner Mark Smith's version of events. But before they paid out, there was one last question. why did the driver of the council van say that the Porsche drove off with a small dent in its rear? The insurers had one last thing to look at.
The tunnel itself has got CCTV both at the beginning and at the end of the tunnel.
When they played the CCTV footage, this is what they saw.
What happened was Mark Smith came into the tunnel on the outside lane, which was completely clear, no traffic in front of him whatsoever. Van was driving on the near side lane. He suddenly pulls in front of the van and then slams on his brakes and does an emergency stop, causing the van to then rear shunt him.
It looked like what's known in the business as a slam-on, a simple form of crash for cash. But Smith claimed to have good reason for his drastic manoeuvre.
He was stating that he pulled into the near side lane and had to do an emergency stop because the vehicles in front of him were braking. When you look at the CCTV, they weren't braking. You could see a slight brake on the vehicle in front of him, but not enough for him to do an emergency stop.
Mark Smith's case was falling apart. And if DC Kate Sibley needed one further piece of evidence against his claim, she had it. Remember that photo of his Porsche with the rear end smashed up?
That's what he was stating happened in the tunnel, but it can be physically seen. Him coming out of the tunnel, the spoiler is still totally intact, very little rear end damage compared to what was seen in the photographs.
The driver of the council van had said all along that the Porsche had driven away with a minor dent to its rear, and she was right. In order to maximise his claim, Mark Smith had further damaged his vehicle after the incident.
In most cases, they normally take a hammer to the back of it, to the rear end of it, and smash it up like that. In this case, I don't know how he did it, and he never stated how he did it.
Mark Smith pleaded guilty to 2 counts of fraud by false representation and was given a suspended 6-month jail term in order to complete 140 hours of unpaid community work.
Crash for cash is a big business at the moment. The implications can be quite serious and have been in certain circumstances. Worst case scenario, somebody dies. And I think they got away with it for too long, but hopefully not anymore.
Today, IFED is executing multiple simultaneous raids.
Come down, please. Talk to the police.
It has warrants for 6 members of a suspected fraudulent accident management gang.
Just received some breaking news from one of the addresses. The officers have found a handgun.
Here at the address of the man thought to be the ringleader, the team has made 2 arrests and has begun an extensive search of his 3-storey townhouse. IFED's financial investigator Simon Stiles is on the 1st floor of the house. His attention has been drawn to a box room.
This is a ceremonial sword. In the wrong hand, deadly. It's upsetting and annoying to see, especially with that so close to where all the children are in, next to their bedrooms.
Having been drawn to the room, IFED conducts a thorough search of its contents.
This is the hub of the enterprise we're talking about, the insurance scam. This may well be where it happened.
It turns out the room is crammed with documents relating to vehicle insurance policies.
One note here is a vehicle registration number. This relates to a vehicle that is currently sat on the driveway of this premises that I know from my investigation has been used, or at least the registration number and the details have been used in contrived accidents.
The car is meticulously searched for further evidence.
We noticed on the front passenger seat there was some documentation, and even looking through the window we could see that was in relation to a road traffic accident, which were interesting, obviously in connection with the inquiry. So those bits of paper have been seized while we searched the vehicle, and they are entered into the evidence chain.
From its research, IFED knows a bit about the car's history. According to insurance records, the car has been involved in several bumps and scrapes. Each time, the owners received hundreds or thousands of pounds for the claim. The car is, at most, worth a couple of £1,000. The children's bedrooms also have to be searched.
So it's a shame when you're turning someone's bedroom upside down, especially little girls. But unfortunately, people do hide things in strange places, and what I'm going to tend to do is be sensitive as possible and look at things, and if I don't need them, I'm going to put them back exactly where I found it, so there's no disruption to their lives. We're looking at like SIM cards and credit cards and things like that can be stuck underneath things that you wouldn't normally, if you open a drawer, you wouldn't normally see.
Simon has found something of interest in a school satchel.
This book, as I've opened the first page, it's got a line here, cheap quotes online, and a phone number. As we're here for insurance scams, it may be something that will later may well incriminate that individual.
Simon heads to the box room and removes what may be the heart of the operation.
This, I believe, is a storage unit. That any history of any of the contrived accidents, any of the claims, any of the setting up of the claims management companies. There's been a number of claims management companies that have been set up. So anything that has been used in the contrived accidents may well be stored here. So this may well be hold the key really to what we're all about.
Today, DC Declan Malone is the exhibits officer. Anything taken as potential evidence has to pass under his nose.
See, so far we've received vehicle documentation, logbooks, we've received computers, we've also got storage data devices that have been seized, so we're quite happy with what we've got so far.
Declan has found some items of interest on the top floor of the house.
He's got a contingency plan. He's got 2 driving licences in his own name, current ones, and also he's done the same with passports. He's got 2 of them, both British passports, in his own name with the correct details.
Owning 2 passports from one country is highly suspicious and often indicative of criminal activity, so Declan is bagging them up. Every room of the suspected ringleader's house has been searched. iPad has found a bootload of potential evidence. This part of the multiple raid is done, and there's been a good result at the other raid location.
Further breaking news, at another address we've uncovered a CS spray canister. So a person's been further arrested for possession of that article. And at a separate address, they found a selection of baseball bats and balaclavas, which we obviously suspect to be gang-related paraphernalia. So again, they'll be in the evidence chain, and questions will be asked of the suspects when they're interviewed later today.
A good day at the office for DCI Wood and his fraud-busting team.